Hello everyone watching, I'm Brassbeat and this is a post commentary for a marathon submission for Peggle Deluxe New Game Plus. So as you can see, the base gameplay of Peggle is pretty simple to get around. You have this big pachinko board. Some of the packs in this board are, most of the packs here are blue, some are orange, and we have to clear off the orange packs to beat the level. Now what makes this category interesting, New Game Plus, is normally in adventure mode we would have to play most of the game with the characters that the game tells us to play. We would go around with every character. Every character would get their turn, and that would be adventure mode. In New Game Plus, for every level, we get to choose between all of the available masters in the game. Which is pretty interesting, since some masters are way more powerful than others. The master's powers, you can see, we get to make use of them when we hit the either of the two green packs that are on the board. For these first few levels, we typically use Tula. What Tula will do is Tula will clear out 1/5 of the remaining oranges of the level for us. Yeah, for the context of speedrunning, just being able to get 1/5 of the progress for free, level progress for free, that's of course a huge benefit, and that makes Tula one of the fastest characters to use overall. And especially in these first few levels where we're pretty free to do whatever we want, and we get to make some great use of Tula here. Now, somewhat interesting part of Peggle is that while the distribution of the pack colors, that's completely RNG, the physics themselves are deterministics, and the layout of each level is predetermined. So in theory, we can know a handful of like really good shots at the start of the level, as you can see here. When we aim at a specific pixel, then we get the same outcome every time, and so we make use of some of these pixel shots to get a nice head start on beating the level. That's something that's especially interesting in New Game Plus, since we get to basically use the strongest available strats on every level. It means that for a lot of the run, we can just sort of turn our brain off, just execute the strats, and then finish out the level. We're actually seeing an interesting master choice here. This is Splork. Splork doesn't show up too often in NG+, but this is one of those levels. Splork, as you can see, gives the Space Blast that he gives us. It produces a big explosion, and especially on these really dense levels, that's of course a great something we can make great use of. In this case, things have gone slightly interesting. While the first few shots in a level are usually planned out, the RNG nature of the orange distribution means that we after those first few shots we have to improvise in order to pick off the remaining oranges quickly. So as you can see here, the strats here, they focus on getting these slides, picking off these slides quickly. So yeah, that's basically a quick crash course in how Peggle runs go. They a lot of these levels, they're pretty interesting to look at, but often sort of the gameplay is sort of self-evident. In this case, this is the first time when we see Cinderbottom. And the fireball power that you're gonna see here It's basically, instead of bouncing off the flip-X, we get to burn right through them. And then we can combine that with these bounces off of the bucket to clear out a huge chunk of the level for us. Yeah, there's sort of the second half of the main NG Plus dynamic is that Cinder is especially helpful for all of these hard obstacle-based levels that you can often see. Not this one, because our strats really are just strong enough to just rip through straight through the level. Not if that happens. You have to pay attention to whether the green generation can sort of mess up the layout or something. The strats that you are going for, like if we hit the flower power early, then a pick that we might need to sort of bounce off of would just be gone, and that wouldn't be very nice. So as you can see, those 4 shots are all planned out, and then we have sort of defeated the main gimmick of the level. These pixel shots have been quite an interesting sort of... Actually, no, this is not the right time to talk about that. The next level is quite interesting. It's the first level that sort of has moving elements. For a lot of masters that's pretty tough to deal with, but not for Cinder, since we just burn right through them anyways. So as you can see, these sidewall bounces, that's what I like to call them, bouncing off of the side of the bucket. It gives the fireball a nice burst of momentum to get a bit more work done for basically free. But yeah, these next few levels are all kind of strat heavy. They rely a lot on sort of executing the strats correctly to sort of defeat the main obstacle of the level. This level doesn't look that intimidating, but it can be really janky if you just try to go for it normally. I did the strats in a weird order, which is which is kind of interesting. Since the shot on the left, you have to I usually line it up on like the plunger you see on the left, but the plunger actually moves depending on the balls you have left. So it's like one of the few sort of visual indicators that isn't actually like fully consistent between different, depending on the circumstances. This next shot, I think I go for this immediately. It's a really hard shot to line up because it's kind of... in this case, the visual indicator is just really weird to make out. You see those few white lines near where we shot, and you have to sort of mentally extend them to like make the setup work, which makes it one of the hardest things to set up in the game, actually. Yeah. There's a lot of like... the interesting thing about Peggle, I think, Peggle speedruns in particular, is sort of the way you approach a speedrun. It has changed a lot over the last few years. Here I try to get a good generation. I did get it after only a few rerolls. But yeah, the way you sort of approach the Peggle speedrun is you have a lot of sort of... it has changed a lot over the last few years because a lot of these pixel shot setups, they're quite unintuitive, I would say. For a lot of the time we would go for somewhat easier setups, basically. Instead of like having to aim at a specific pixel, what you could do is you can sort of go all the way at the side and then use the keyboard arrows to move the cannon. That's then the shot that you get depends on how many taps you do. That's a very easy way to sort of opens up a few options to sort of get a deterministic to get sort of the same idea of doing a deterministic shot out. Of course, with pixel shots you have a lot more options available, so it's more likely that something is actually like good. There's shots there that are like actually usable, I should say. So that's sort of where this where Peggle speedruns have undergone a massive revolution over the last few years. I was the one to sort of set as first drive towards pixel shots as the main method of using strats. Because, well, I think I was the first one who just noticed that just lining up one specific pixel is actually something that's somewhat reasonable to do if you get used to it. So that's sort of how things happened around that time. So yeah, that especially the category of NG+, it really sort of exemplifies that sort of different approach to Peggle speedrunning. There's like the balance shifts a bit more to using the best predetermined options available, and there's a bit less of sort of having to improvise good Peggle gameplay, basically, which I think is something that the has sort of its own charm. Can maybe sort of might be a bit more interesting from a traditional speedrunning perspective, where the community actually, wait, hang on, this thread is pretty cool. Let's have a quick watch. If you do that, yeah, that's a nice way to sort of deal with that big moving element that we have to deal with in the middle. A lot of these, when we play Cinder, a lot of the strats that we use are sort of variants of like the of these kind of sidewall bounce ideas. So there's like a lot. There's quite a bit of memorization you have to do. Like going for slightly different angles means that the timings are slightly different, and oh, if you forgive me fumbling around with the menus a bit, but yeah, the timings are gonna be slightly different with different Cinder levels, and that's quite an intriguing skill to sort of get the hang of. This is another tough level that Cinder just completely tears through. Really nice to see all this. Yeah, that's runs being those strats being put to good use here. I've been waffling on for so long. I'll take this level is this level is pretty interesting. This is these Cinder strats here are actually a pretty new addition. I did not execute this one properly. But the next one's I think the next one looks a bit more normal, I think. The way it should be looking. Yeah, I like that. So this is a pretty new addition to the strats, sort of a addition from like a pretty new runner, Janano. Janano just kind of showed up at some point like last month with yeah, taking a pretty radical approach to Peggle speedrunning, like actually like learning all of these hard pixel setups first, as opposed to trying to get a grip on more the more abstract sort of Peggle skills that you need to that you also need a lot of to go fast. So yeah, that has been a pretty a very interesting sort of new insight in the how Peggle speedrunning would work at like different levels. Basically, a lot of the sort of traditional advice has been to sort of go for easily executable strats and try to sort of develop an understanding of how to improvise good Peggle gameplay first. But I think it sort of has been an interesting sort of point to reflect upon what you could sort of how you could sort of approach the run at a sort of intermediate level run. Because like being able to do all these hard strats, they do make a lot of levels far easier. Which, yeah, depending on what you're good at, can be does make it quite an interesting sort of how should I say it? Interesting sort of alternative approach to Peggle speedrunning, which I'm pretty excited to see where that if that brings people anywhere, especially in NG Plus. Has been great for me to sort of explore this these sort of ideas a bit more. So yeah. I'm running a bit out of steam, so these next few levels are pretty self-evident. The chat has to post Gerald in the chat, or the run is invalid. Gerald is the fish over there. So yeah, there's of course a lot more. I've been waffling a lot, and a lot more of the run is sort of useful to sort of take a break. Have to do your messages and donation things for marathons where that's relevant. Very interesting about NG Plus as well is the sort of difference in strategies that people go for. Because it's obviously it's really hard to sort of quantify how good certain strats are. So even if there's like some consensus in the community as far as how good different certain strats are, essentially. There's still plenty of choices you can make, both in terms of like just how easy are things to execute, as well as just how well do you think is a strat able to beat the level. This playlist is hella weird. I have never heard this track in the game before. This is supposed to be the Peggle Deluxe OST, but like something's different, I guess. Oh well, this game is been ported like so many times. It's probably just something they added in later versions of the game. pretty funny. The next level, very interesting. The strats that I go for, because this is the first time where a strat really has a tight timing component to it. I try to like sort of pause to line up the correct timing. There's a certain 3-frame window that I'm aiming for, which is going at 100 frames per second, so 3 frames is not a lot compared to a lot of other games. But yeah, I did get the full triple slide there. Very cool. This is the first time that we also see the use of who basically aimbots your shot and tries to get find shots, adjust your shot slightly to get more points, which is usually which can be helpful depending on the circumstances. I like Who for that level specifically because Who works great in both the cases where you do get the triple slide strat and in cases where you fail it and only get 2 slides. But yeah, these the different the levels come in sets of 5 stages of 5 levels each, basically, and each level is basically stage is basically is supposed to feature a certain master in sort of when you're playing from a new file, and that means that in many cases the stages sort of have different flavors depending on what masters they feature. For most of the game sort of does a good job at making sure the levels sort of favor the masters that you've been given in any percent decently well. Of course, in NG Plus we don't care because the overall strength differences in masters are just that massive. We just don't see more than like 4 different. We usually see Tula or Cinder, and sometimes Who, very occasionally Who and Sprook. Yeah, so this is a really awkward strat to line up on because like the part of the level that you're like putting the mouse on is like really dark, so it's hard to see what you're having to aim for. That darkness is a very unfortunate aspect in other cases because this game has a colorblind mode, but I can't really use it because the colorblind mode has an unfortunate property where it makes the textures of the blue pegs really dark. So there are some setups where you have to set up on the pegs themselves, and in colorblind mode a lot of the times the textures are just too dark for me to make out properly. So that's kind of slightly unfortunate property. Colorblind mode has an unfortunate trade-off. That's just what we have to deal with, I guess. So this level, I think Cinder isn't the play here because if you just do the strats, then probably then this becomes one of those easy kind of levels where Tula's probably much better suited for it. I don't play this category a whole lot naturally. I tend to the way I sort of approach Peggle speedrunning is I want to be able to like actually learn things about how the speedrun sort of works, basically. I personally feel like grinding out the category is something that I prefer doing if I actually like have a sort of final goal in mind, which in Peggle is hardly ever the case. There's so much you could like. There's so much worth studying about how the speedrun sort of works that like I never get down to that, and I often like don't play many of the different categories that the game features. What I've been focusing on is 80%, which is the well, it's called adventure mode, but it's basically 80%, and then there's Extreme Grandmaster, which is basically this game's 100% category. Extreme Grandmaster is a very challenging category. I think for this sort of submission cycle, I will be including EGM in my submission, so there's no reason to talk about it now. This is a bit of this level has gone really weirdly. That's just the way Peggle sort of is. Because of the chaotic nature of the base gameplay, sometimes things just don't work out the way you want to. And you have to be able to sort of deal with it when any level sort of gets that kind of challenge. This is a very strange level to be playing. I pick Who here because I want the game to sort of find a way for me to deal with these big rings. Think I did something weird here, so it doesn't end up working out. That's fine. In this case, it's kind of fine because the orange gen has been favorable for me. I'm not really in trouble with like the froggy ring, so in this case I think I got a bit lucky in spite of the level just not going very well for me. Like I pretty much got bailed out of what could be a pretty tough situation. We've sort of reached a point where the levels all become very tricky to deal with, so we're gonna see a lot more Cinder and a lot less Tula. I forgot what I was doing there, no worries. So this level is very intriguing to has undergone a very intriguing development. This specific pixel shot that we go for, it's just so powerful at like dealing with those big flat sections that would otherwise be incredibly slow, and the shape it leaves is just almost perfect to like burn through with these fireballs. So this level has gone from like one of the hardest levels usually to what's basically like a really easy level to deal with in NG+. So yeah, here I'm going for a very weird strat that I lifted from EGM. I kind of realized immediately that it wasn't super necessary to go for such a thing. But yeah, this is we've reached stage 8, which features a bunch of really zany looking levels. I end up missing the strat here. I'm supposed to like slide and get the other the bottom half of that mouthpiece. But thankfully I got a very favorable layout for Splork, so got bailed out again basically. Funnily enough. But yeah, it's these sort of developments in Peggle speedruns, they never really truly stop. There's a lot of people who look for like both new strats to sort of aid with the levels, new ideas to approach some of the hard levels, and in general just very cool. Oh, this level is gone kind of awkwardly. I had to go for 3 ball skills there to make sure I had enough balls to beat the level. That's one of the skills that's one of the skills you can use to sort of like salvage run a level that's going poorly. You can, if you're good enough, then usually you can just chip away at the level until you get to what you're trying to what you actually need to do to beat the level. I believe this is the last level where we get to see Splork. These sort of spinning ring levels that you that Deluxe has a few different flavors of. It's something that Splork does really well, because like any other way of dealing with it would be very janky, and they tend to also just be a bit too fat for Cinder to deal with them naturally. So yeah, speaking of Cinder, these are 2 levels that are, in any percent, these are really annoying, because for some reason you have to play these levels with Warren, who is very, I would say, very middle of the pack in terms of strength, and also incredibly inconsistent, because what effects you get from Warren's power is literally RNG. But yeah, as you can see, sort of this level and the next one in particular just have a way of lining up really well for Cinder. So yeah, there's I've been talking a lot about the run basically, but less so about the community that's involved with it. We've had a lot of great runners over the last few years, a lot of great strat hunters. I am hugely thankful to, in particular, Narcolepsy and Soup, I would say. They do a lot of sort of the they put in a lot of work to advance the strats that we go for. And we also had a huge help from Smiling Marks, who was the first to sort of delve into sort of making tools to help with the strat development process. So thanks to Marx's efforts, we had the what we call the heat maps for Deluxe. Basically, just sort of a brute force attempt at each level that tries every possible pixel shot, and gets us the most directly efficient options. And over the last year, we've had a lot of the times we would just find new things looking at sort of by examining those heat maps so, on their own, which was really cool to sort of watch the process evolve, because that sort of efficiency-based approach, it changed a lot about the especially these early game easier levels. You would get they were the last to sort of have pixel strats developed for them, because it's one thing to sort of use pixel strats as a way to cheese obstacle-based levels, but it's another thing to start implementing pixel strats because they are just faster for head. In a more general sense, the community has been very lively, giving many sort of speedrun adjacent events to sink our teeth into. We've had the PBI, which is which was sort of which was playing bingo on the based on the post-game challenges that these games have to offer. We've had we're currently have a grinding-based event that's basically where the main idea is to not use the pixel strats that we've gotten used to over the years, which has been a very sort of refreshing take, going with no predetermined shots whatsoever. And an event that I have been hosted a while ago is the Great Peggle War, where I basically sort of invented new categories, and there were I had 2 captains draft teams for those categories, and then face off against them. So one thing we did is we had a specific we had one challenge where we did sort of NG plus like this, except the strongest masters in particular were banned. So instead of seeing a lot of Cinder and Tula, you would have to do a lot of levels with Jimmy or Warren and all of those other mid-range masters that you didn't see all that often around that time. And there was also the Master Lock, a sort of co-op twist on NG+, where which was a 2v2 event where basically teammates were not allowed to have the same master selected at the same time, so you had to do a lot of on-the-fly managing those masters, the usage of different masters. And this strat, by the way, it is an incredibly weird strat that I sort of found a while ago. It's surprisingly not as generally useful as it looks. That specific fireball, in theory, you can do it on any level as long as you have something to set up the precise cannon angle. But currently in NG+, it's only really useful in this level, the level you just saw, and the level that comes after this one. So yeah, pretty A pretty interesting idea. That sort of... Maybe we'll see some more use in the future. I don't know. It's really hard to sort of tell how things are gonna develop in Peggle. There's just no way to sort of there's just so many factors that go into this. It's hard to tell what the community will focus on next time. So now another that fireball strat that I was talking about, you're gonna see it again here. I'm gonna aim right here, and then with the correct bucket timing, you get 1 bounce, 2 bounces, and then a 3rd bounce. That was a bit of an unusual variant, but it works out decently well. Especially for this level. I made that strat around the time where sort of the idea for going going for a pretty tight timing window was just a pretty arcane idea for Peggle speedrunning. And we have reached Zenfrog. Zenfrog is very interesting in this category. In almost every category, this is the hardest level by quite a wide margin. Because, well, there's so much moving things that are just hard to combo well. But it just so happens that these fireballs just kind of line up to just eat up half of level for us. I missed that fireball, but in this case I got pretty lucky and had a generation where it had sort of a level generation that where just the 1 fireball was pretty much good enough. So yeah, pretty interesting way to deal with it. And now we've gone on to the sort of final exam of the final exam of this game. These are 5 incredibly gimmicky levels. Of course, Zenfrog is already pretty gimmicky, but it goes without saying that these are pretty unique levels. In this case, we just happen to have one of the strongest pixel shots in the entirety of Peggle speedrunning available to us. So this level is basically free. And yeah, a lot. One where we actually surprisingly just kind of improvise our fireballs a bit. That doesn't happen very often. Usually, if you play Cinder, you kind of have a general idea of what kind of fireballs you want to be going for. And then this is a level where we just kind of throw pixel shots at the level until it dies. I was a bit rusty there, so I missed these pixel shots a few times, but that's no big deal. So yeah, we go for this shot again went weird, so I just move on to the left side immediately. We can do yeah, just a few more slides there, and then what's left of the level is really easy to deal with fireballs. So yeah, pretty interesting way to deal with the level. Although in this case, I got a bit unlucky. It was about time my luck was would be running out. There again, I got a really weird sort of ending shot there. A lot of one of the more subtle aspects of Peggle speedrunning is just getting more reliable fast fevers, basically. Since it's you have to wait until the ball sort of gets into one of those end of level buckets, and they just have the kind of geometry where the ball just gets stuck on them for quite a while. This level, we have to shoot through the portals and the UFO to access most of the level, which is a very unique skill that's really hard to do well. But yeah, it's something where I do, where I actually have a different master choice compared to a lot of the community. I like to use Tula here, just because at some point the strats, most of the community uses Who, but I feel like I for one just don't really like the idea of giving up control of the gameplay to Who. Dude, I still make that mistake. Not sure why. So yeah, this is part 2 of throw pixel shots at the level until it dies. I think in my case something weird happens there. That's, in this case, getting the flower power early was not a great call because it messes up this strat and then leaves this one pick down that's like shaded in the under the bottom of the big orb. I got kind of lucky there and got a nice bucket bounce to deal with it. So no biggie. And then the last level, this one has undergone by far the most changes based on the strats we go for. What's currently agreed upon to be the fastest is to just use the fireballs like this. These are again pretty tight timings to go for, but this strat is my baby, so I get this every time. And yeah, that's been the that's been NG Plus. I hope everyone watching enjoyed the showcase, and yeah, I hope this will be a great addition to any marathon, hopefully. So yeah, that's gonna be it, and I'm gonna sign off. Bye bye.